Assalamu alaikum and welcome to all of you. Language and Linguistics and Introduction. Some of the students and learners requested that there should be a lecture about the basics of language and linguistics. So this discussion is based on the basics of language and linguistics. However, all learners can be benefited from it. First of all, what is language? So language is a Latin word for tongue, and language is a skill, a medium, and a tool to communicate. It is a system of sound and written symbols. Most people think of language in all of these ways. Suppose something we do, a skill, something we know, knowledge, something we have, a possession, something we use, a tool, something which happens, an event, something which transmits a culture, that is a group identity, or something we can describe an event. However, if we consider the language, then we can find out that there are three basic components of language, that is grammar, phonology, and vocabulary. And this diagram tells us how these tools or these parts or these segments or these sections, they are integrated and they can constitute, or these are the components of a language. So language components: vocabulary, grammar, phonology, and then language skills, that is listening, speaking, reading and writing, and they are called, or they are known as, integrated language skills. So the reading skill, writing skill, listening skill and speaking skills, they are skill. What is a skill? Anything which we can learn through practice is called a skill. When we say language is a skill, it means language can be learned through practice, by repetition and by doing it practically. So language is a skill means language can be learned through practice. Language components. As we have mentioned earlier, there are three basic components of a language: grammar, vocabulary and phonology. Vocabulary is a range of language of a person, profession or a class, and there are certain techniques how to remember the new words or the words of a language. So we can use these techniques, that is repetition, translations and imaginations. What are the details of these terms? We can take them into details when we will focus on vocabulary as a separate lecture. We will consider repetition, translation, imagination in a separate lecture under the heading of vocabulary. Then vocabulary learning, there are certain other words, how we can learn the new words or the words of our language. So antonyms, homophones, active vocabulary, passive vocabulary, slang, etymology, collocation, prefixes, proverbs, denotation, idioms, homograph, synonyms, connotations, suffixes. Next part of a language is grammar. So, grammar is a description of a language and the way in which linguistic units such as words and phrases are combined to produce sentences. Grammar is the arrangement of words in proper sequence according to the native speakers. Phonology, this is the third and the last segment or component of a language, and this is a branch of linguistics that deals with system of sounds. Phone means sounds. How sounds are arranged to form meaningful utterances or units, this can be considered in phonology, and how listeners or audience they perceive them. The principles which regulate the use of sounds, this can be covered under the segment or under the component of phonology. Then this is linguistics. Here we would like to mention only the term linguistics. We will consider linguistics in details in the coming lecture. You will have to wait for it. And linguistics, the scientific study of language and its structure, and in linguistics then we study in details the various components of grammar, syntax, phonetics, sociolinguistics, psycholinguistics, semantics, pragmatics, etc., etc. But for that you will have to wait for the next lecture. Thank you very much for your kind attention.